This is the Making Waves podcast. My name is Dave Rotman. We're here with Tesa Schwans, District 9 representative. Welcome, Tesa.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate being here.
This is, we're at the Makers Exchange in Tea. This is kind of a cool place.
Yes, I love to shop here.
It's got a lot of good stuff.
They have
Good food and a lot of little businesses where they exchange a lot of, local products.
Yep. And I love my small businesses, so definitely love coming here.
Awesome. Tell us what committees you're on.
Right now, I currently serve on Commerce and Energy Committee and the Education Committee.
All right. And any other committees you've been serving on or interim on?
Over the summer, I was asked to be on the Teacher Compensation Review Board Committee and do some studies reviewing teachers and their pay schedule, how they're paid, where the teachers are seeing the biggest losses in K through 12 and where they're losing the most teachers, and what we can do to research the data and statistics that are leading to some of these teachers leaving the industry.
Could you dig down on that a little bit? What recommendations have you made? What did you find out?
We had 3 meetings over the summer. Some of the recommendations that were made were just to look at some of the salary metrics, some of the formulas for the teacher salary and the average compensations, to expand opportunities that for teachers' professional development, and to look at the apprenticeship programs that Dr. DeYoung is doing out of DSU. All of the strides that they've been making in that part of the program to get more teachers on board that don't want a traditional 4-year route of becoming a teacher. So it's been really inspirational to see his programs. So that was really great.
That's fascinating. When my mom used to teach a little bit, and so did one of my aunts. And back in the day, you graduated from high school, and then you go to a finishing school, which is basically 2 years where they taught you how to teach. But theoretically speaking, you have 12 years of education. There's no reason why somebody with 12 years of education, high school graduate, can't teach 8th graders.
Yes. And what I understand from the apprentice program is that they allow them to work part-time, and then as they're working part-time, they get to work towards their degree. And by the time they're done with their degree, by doing this apprenticeship program, they're then able to get hired on by the district that they were already working with. So what it does is it creates some stability to the areas that they live in, and it creates a need, or it helps get the need met within those areas that were already losing some of the teachers in that field. And so it's been very positive.
I'm going to speculate here. I'm going to guess that you get teachers that don't have all this student debt load either.
Right. Correct. Yep. And so, which is a win-win for both. So you have somebody that comes into the industry wanting to teach, very passionate. Not that, out of a 4-year you're not, because of course you are. But people that cannot take the traditional 4-year route because of other circumstances that have come up in their lives, this has been a great opportunity for them to get teachers into the profession on a different track. So that's been really great.
That sounds very innovative. What kind of bills are going to be bringing in the future, next legislative session?
That's a very good question. Being a cosmetologist and a small business owner, there is a series of bills that I want to bring forward this next legislative session. Just to back up a little bit, last session I brought House Bill 1232, and it was a bill that was really geared towards sharing your booth space in a salon setting. So, for example, if you have a station in the salon and you work a certain amount of hours and you wanted to have somebody else come in and work the opposite hours that you are, you can now do that. That is written in law that you do have the ability to share your workspace without having to have extra square footage that you have to add or any type of extra plumbing that you need to add in with that extra square footage. In with that extra space. So it was really a right to work issue and being able to share that space and be able to have people that wanted to work on a part-time basis be able to have that opportunity as well, to share that space and to share that expense. So it was a big win.
That's really great, but I'm sitting here a little bit boggled. Why wasn't that allowed in the first place? Why wasn't that always the case?
Well, and interesting enough, it was something that was happening, but the way that some of the laws were written, it was written to where the understanding and the interpretation was that you had to add more square footage in order to do that. And We just think that it wasn't necessarily something that we needed to do. It was something that we really already had the right to do. We just needed to reiterate that.
Okay. Win for freedom.
Yes, win for freedom. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. What other bills have you passed, or what are you going to share in the future?
A lot of the bills that I'll be bringing forward will really have to do with cosmetology, just because the laws and regulations that have been written in that part of our codified law really needs a lot of work. I mean, they really haven't been updated since 1974. And so some of the, some of the laws and rules and promulgated rules are just a little outdated. So we just need to update some of the rules and regulations that are following in those parameters. So for example, reciprocity, the ability to move here from one state to another and be able to have the right to work right away, and having the hours, making sure that the hours are crossing over, making sure that the licenses that were coming from other states, that they're able to transfer here and do it in a way that's going to be more streamlined and is more easily accessible. Mm-hmm. And that really comes on the heels of some issues that we had facing some reciprocity issues this last year. So we really want to make sure that it's streamlined, it's clear, it's concise, and it's very direct on what the intentions are for when you come to work in South Dakota and having reciprocity.
Yeah, get the government out of the way so people can work and make a living.
Yes. And another thing I'd love to do with that is make sure that the work hours experience that you've had in other states, is if you were licensed and you're moving to our state, that some of those work hours can be utilized into reciprocity hours.
What are you really passionate about as a legislature? What do you really want to dig into?
This has been such a great experience to really lean into where your heart really feels that you're able to make the biggest and most significant changes. Being in a cosmetology world, it's not just about doing hair and, having somebody sitting in your chair. It's about that contact. It's about the connection that you feel with your client. Doing hair, honestly, kind of helps build you up for a lot of communication and dealings with people on the emotional level, on a psychological level, on a spiritual level. And so you really get to have a deeper connection with those people that sit in your chair, which has led me to a deeper passion, which I knew I always had, but never really knew how to get into this without a 4-year degree. And that's dealing with mental health and the addiction and prevention and what it looks like in our society on a daily schedule. Like, what does that look like? Part of my passion is looking at the preventative side of it. What can we do as a society to look at the prevention agencies that we have in South Dakota right now? How can we help create some awareness to that so that we can help the next generation to have more grounded family structures and family values that are going to really help preserve and protect the unit of a family.
The foundation of societies are families.
Yes. And I definitely agree with that. I think that the addiction rates across the state, when you look at the amount of incarcerations and potential incarcerations that could happen, the upticks with addiction pretty much go hand in hand with that in a lot of cases.
I think that's not even in question anymore.
Yeah. And so, what comes first? Does addiction come first and then mental health, or does mental health come first and then addiction? So they kind of go hand in hand. And so over the summer, I decided to do my own deeper dive into a facility that's in my district, which is in District 9. And it's called Brighter Transitions and Falls Academy. Mm-hmm. And they are a preventative care facility that has Department of Correction kids, and it also has DSS kids all on the same campus. And so after talking to the executive director out there, it really sparked my interest of doing a deeper study into what we can do as elected officials to help create awareness to this situation and issue that we're facing in the state of South Dakota.
Do you think this is going to lead to policy changes or maybe some bills that you might bring?
I think it could potentially lead to some policy changes. Over the summer we helped to encourage Encompassing Youth Forum, which myself, Senator Hone, Representative Baxter, Representative Soy, Representative Norstrup, and myself all kind of got together and helped create this Encompassing Youth Forum. And it was pretty evident that some of the issues that we're looking at is some legislation on SB 70 and SB 73, which has to do a lot with juvenile reform. So there could possibly be some legislation that could come across the House or the Senate this next session that could start dealing with some of the inconsistencies that we have within that.
SB 70 keeps coming up.
Yeah.
Could you, just for the sake of our listeners, briefly talk about SB 70 and what that is and how it's relevant?
Yes. SB 70 is legislation that was brought, I want to say about 5 years ago. So it was, it was before I was really paying attention to a lot of this. And from my understanding, it's legislation that was brought forward. The SB 70 is more for the adult level and the SB 73 is more for the juvenile level. And it was created to put certain parameters in place to be a little bit more gentle on crime.
It was promising, if I recall, reduce incarceration because they're going to reform the system a little bit and they're going to help with addiction treatment and doing all kinds of trying to resolve issues before putting people in prison.
Right.
And it's not really had the effect that they intended.
Right. And so what they're finding is that the inconsistencies of being able to get them help sooner than later is part of the problem. So what happens is then the crime escalates and it gets a little bit more intense. So by the time they get a handle on it, they're already on the trajectory for incarcerations. As far as getting legislation across the desk, I hope there's going to be somebody that's way better than me that's going to bring the legislation to address some of this.
I've heard SB 70 come up often enough that I think that a lot of legislators realize that something needs to be done to make some changes to it.
Yes. And I think SB 73 is the other one as well, which during our Encompassing Youth Forum, it was brought up actually by the superintendents, and some of the superintendents expressed their concerns about SB 73 and what it's doing to the uptick of behavioral issues in our schools. It's
leaving a lot of superintendents, the school administrators, to deal with issues and problematical students and crime the justice system is not dealing with.
Right.
And they're left holding the bag.
Yes.
And they're not too thrilled about that, understandably.
Yes. And that's exactly right. From our understanding through the superintendents was that they want to do their part and they want to do their best. But again, it's very hard to split your attention when you're trying to focus on education. And then now you're having to focus a lot on behavioral issues and emotional instability. And that kind of led a little bit to my teacher compensation review board this summer. And that was a little bit of the questioning that we had in the teacher compensation review board, which is how can we address some of the behavioral issues? Are the behavioral issues some of the reasons why the teachers are leaving, or is it because of the pay structure? Those were some of the recommendations that they needed to find out through the Department of Education to do some deeper research and find out what those recommendations look like.
Obviously, something needs to be done.
Yes.
I understand that in the news that there's something that the federal government has done and the state government is discussed. That the governor's discussed about scholarships.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yes. President Trump recently got the big, beautiful bill passed through the House and through the Senate. Part of this is that individuals can donate scholarships to organizations instead of paying more taxes to the federal government. So that's really a huge win for our taxpayers and for our schools.
Could you go over that just a little bit? So in other words, instead of paying federal income taxes, you can give your money to a local scholarship fund and get that deducted from your taxes.
Yes. Yes. So it was just brought across the desk of Governor Roden on November 14th of this month that he has opted into that program, that donors in South Dakota are able to give $1,700 to the approved scholarship organizations for 100% non-refundable tax credit. This will start in January of 2027.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I much prefer that the money go directly to a program than go through Washington, D.C. bureaucrats.
Absolutely. And the fact that you as a taxpayer get that as a credit on your taxes is a win for everybody. So it's a win for school choice, and it's a win for you as a taxpayer to get a credit.
I will put a link to that in this post so that people can see it for themselves, and it's going to be in 2027.
Yep, it says January 2027. This money will fund scholarships for families to use on a variety of educational purposes, and it will help them in support as they discover what opportunities are going to work best for their kids.
Wow. So thank you to Governor Roden.
Yes, and a big thank you to President Trump on that as well.
Of course. You were also on the task force for rehabilitation of prisoners?
Yes. I was actually selected. I am one of 30 that was selected for the Correctional Rehabilitation Task Force. Mm-hmm. We had our first meeting in November. So it was a really interesting dynamic to the meeting with 30 people sitting and listening.
Large committee.
That's a large committee listening to the ideas and recommendations that we could potentially push forward as we're seeking new pathways to reform, reentry, and preventative care for the incarcerated.
I think it's important that we take on this issue because right now our system is failing.
Yes. And earlier when I was talking about the preventative care aspect to it, it's so multifaceted that you have the prevention care aspect, you have the reform care, which includes part of prevention, but it also includes reform within the institutions itself.
Yes.
And it also includes reentry programs that when they do get back into society, that we have a brand new man that knows his worth and knows what he is able to accomplish on his own and be successful and not have the recidivism rates going back up.
I like the way you put that.
Thank you.
I believe in redemption.
Yes.
But you have to give people an opportunity.
Absolutely.
If they have no other choices, then they're not going to be able to succeed.
Yes. And honestly, if you know me, you know that I'm very faithful. I am very rooted in discernment of what it is that God is calling me to do and what I can do and do my part as a citizen and the position that I am in. That's what always comes to me is redemption. Who of us deserves redemption? And who are we to judge who deserves redemption? And so what is it that we can do to help these broken men that have done some bad things? And I'm not saying that what they did was right, because there's a lot of victims out there that don't even get an opportunity to maybe have a voice anymore. But what we should look at as a society is how can we make a change from something negative that's happened? And how can we take that and try and do something good from something bad that's happened?
Mm-hmm. Tessa, what are your final thoughts?
You know, I have a lot of thoughts, so it's hard to actually make them a final thought, but I'll try to give it a
final
shot.
thought for this podcast.
Yeah. I really think that as a newly elected representative for the House, that I'm really committed to fighting for the values that align with South Dakota and encompass our integrity, the honesty, the compassion, and the fortitude of the people in my district and the state of South Dakota, and the legislation that I support and the legislation that I want to bring coming across the House and the Senate this next session. So my final thoughts are really, what can we do as a collective group of conservative Republicans to come together to solidify our message and make our statements of what it is that we see as a future for South Dakota and make it stronger together.
Tessa, thank you for being with us.
You bet. Thank you.
This has been the Making Waves podcast. My name is Dave Rotman. We've been here with Tessa Schwans of District 9.
Thank you.